World-renowned swimmer Ryan Stramrood has shared details of his inspirational life journey of spirit and resilience in a book he entitled Push Past the Impossible. In the book, Ryan opens up and about how he went from being a self-proclaimed couch potato to becoming a multi-Guinness World Record holder to claiming his spot as one of top 50 extreme swimming athletes in the world and a sought-after international inspirational speaker. Now, to take us through this conversation further, we're joined by the author himself, Ryan Stramrood, who joins us on Zoom to tell us more from Cape Town. Good morning, Ryan. Welcome to Morning Live. Talk to us about this book. What is the inspiration behind it?
Well, good morning to everybody in Lebo. The inspiration behind it is just a journey that I've been on, as per your introduction. At the age of 30, I had done absolutely nothing extraordinary besides, running a business and staying very much in my lane. And just by making one simple little decision, which led to another one, which led to another one, has taken me on this fascinating journey around the world. And, I've got so many stories that I had to start sharing them.
Now, take us back to those first strokes where you were attempting to become the first man to swim solo from Russia to the USA.
Goodness, yes, that's that's quite a story. It was done by a lady called Lynn Cox in the 80s, an American lady, and no male had ever done it. And I wanted to join a group who were going to do it. They were all in wetsuits. I only used a Speedo and a cap and goggles, and the water's very cold there. And you have to swim in the Bering Sea. Now, not many people will know that, but it's an extremely volatile body of water and very, very cold. And right in the middle of the Bering Sea between Russia and the USA are two little islands called the Diomede Islands. And if you can get it right to swim from the one to the other across the very cold water and the currents and the walrus and everything that's going to get in your way there, you can then proclaim to have swum solo from Russia to the USA. You're also swimming across the international date line. So you'll be swimming, depending which way you go, either 24 hours back in time or into the future. So it's quite a fascinating swim, which unfortunately, it's a fascinating story, but it went horribly wrong for me on that day.
What happened?
Oh, wow. How much time do you have?
Simplify it for us a little bit.
Very, very briefly, the water was researched to be 6 degrees. It turned out to be 3.2 degrees Celsius. That makes a massive difference. We also could not get permission to go into the Russian waters. So I had to go in without permission, and it's a military base, and that's quite a big risk. Tensions were also very high at the time because it happened coincidentally the previous time that Russia invaded the Ukraine. So everything was very, very volatile, and we couldn't get anything diplomatically done. And through that, we lost all our licenses and insurances, etc. But I still went to give it a bash, and we lost half the support crew, which meant a lot of extra danger. And through that, there were some other elements that just made me. I swam the distance, but I couldn't exit onto the Russian island itself, which means I can't officially claim the title. But the swim was done.
Yeah, in the book you mentioned that you would be oversimplifying things if you said that the cold water swimming bug had bitten. Speak to us more about this. What do you mean by this?
Well, the cold water, I live in Cape Town and we're surrounded by cold water. So every time I get in the ocean, I feel the massive impact that the element of cold has on a human. And in water, it's far more profound than in air. It sucks the life out of a human 25 times quicker. And I started to realize just how powerful the human mind is, because we are highly evolved to make sure we get out of dangerous or hostile situations. And when you put yourself in cold water, all those mechanisms come to the fore in a very, very profound way, in quite a hectic way, actually. And I started to realize that I was being denied the ability of rational thought, and this defense mechanism was steering my decisions. And once I started to figure that out, I realized that I could extend my time in the cold. I could override what was naturally happening inside my brain and my body to give me more time in what most will consider very hostile turf, which it is. I mean, cold water will eventually kill you, but you've got a lot more longer. And once you start understanding that and how your brain works, you then start to extrapolate that and look at everyday life. And when you're running a business and just as things go, and I now stand on stages around the world, preaching the lessons and trying to help others become aware of what is actually happening in your head when you hit a difficult environment and how easily we steer back to comfort rather than take the more difficult decision, which is where the magic happens, by the way.
I mean, towards the end of the book, you also touch on the formalization of the International Ice Swimming Federation. Tell us more about this.
The International Ice Swimming Association was started by a gentleman called Ryan Stramrood, and I'm a founding member, and a couple of other of us who were starting to experiment more with our abilities in the cold water and seeing if we could push the boundaries a little bit further each time and overcome that impact. And we realized that there is no body or book of record at the time that regulates what an ice swim is and then records different feats in really cold water. So sitting in sunny Cape Town, we decided to start the International Ice Swimming Association to tell the world that if you want to say you've done an official ice swim, you have to swim 1 mile, that's 1,609 meters, wearing only a brief costume, goggles, and one cap, no wetsuits, no grease. You have to swim that in an outdoor body of water, and that body of water needs to be 5 degrees Celsius or below. And if you can do that, you have done an official ice mile. And we just started that movement by Ryan Stramrood and again with my support. And that is now, it started quite a big movement globally.
What's one of the key lessons that came working on this part of your journey, the book part?
Well, the book part has been a fascinating part of my journey. I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd be writing a book. But, when you sit down, thanks to COVID and hard lockdowns, when I wasn't on speaking stages for a while, I had time, and I started to write down some stories and realized I had more than enough for one book, and my second book is already in progress. So what did I learn on this journey? Wow, that writing a book is a vulnerable thing. And I'm delighted to say it's been so beautifully received and people are taking the messages. I simply share my stories, and what I try and share most importantly, besides the awareness and how to really understand what's happening in your head, I don't want anyone else to jump in cold water. That's not the mission. But if you read my story, where I was a couch potato, at the age just before 30 years old, and how I turned things around just by small baby steps. I didn't wake up one day and say I want to go and chase Guinness World Records or go swim in the coldest water around the world. It was a journey. But it's a journey you have to allow in. You have to take a risk. You have to make a decision that is perhaps considered a bad decision. If that's your plan, that's where you're going to head. But if you take a decision outside your plan, it might take you in a different direction, and it might actually end in failure. And that's the vulnerability that we all have. But if you don't take that risk, you're going to stay in your comfort zone your entire life and quite probably underachieve. You'll get by, but you might be underachieving and you'll never even know it. So I urge a lot of people just to, and I show them gently how to take that shift and that first step.
All right, Ryan, inspiring conversation. Thank you so much for inspiring us this morning. Ryan Stramrood speaking to us about his book, Push Past the Impossible. Well, his second book is already in the pipeline, so we can't wait for that one. Ryan Stramrood talking to us about that.